everyone, and welcome to the CapitalW Collective Mentoring Series. I'm Dr. Stacey, your host, and I'm excited to bring professionals of various mortgage industry roles who will share their wealth of experiences, insights, and recommendations from their own mentoring journeys. If you know CapitalW Collective, you know our commitment to education in the capital market space. And in this series, we'll discuss the impact and importance of mentoring, no matter your role, educating you on what to do to elevate yourself and feel empowered to lean into mentoring. Now, I couldn't be more excited about today's guest. I have admired Marcia Davies ever since the moment that I first stepped foot into a ballroom in San Diego for mPower. And the first time she came out on stage, I was just blown away. So for any of you who've been living under a mortgage industry rock and you have not met her, Marcia, welcome. And would you tell the crowd a bit about you?
Thank you, Stacey. I'm so happy to be here. Well, what Stacey is referring to is during my career here, I'm at the Mortgage Bankers Association. I'm the Chief Operating Officer. And I had this yearning to make more connections with women. And in the role my seat here, the role I play at MBA, I travel a lot and I go to a lot of our conferences and events. And I knew there weren't as many women as men that attended our conferences and events. That wasn't a surprise, but what was a surprise to me was women didn't seem to know each other. They seemed to know any of their colleagues, but they didn't seem to know other women in our industry. So I went out on this quest to really start by getting women to network with each other, get to know each other, and it kept growing and growing, and we branded it mPower. And the event you're talking about is, I was asked by my board of directors to make it bigger. And so we started a one-day summit, which happens on the Saturday before our annual convention. And we bring women and our male allies together, and we have a full day of networking, engagement, professional development, you name it. We do it there. We dance, we have a DJ. It's just a great time. So thank you for all your support and for being such a big advocate for women in our industry, Stacey.
You make it feel like this is really what we're called to do, right? And certainly to be able to reach back and bring women with us and help others along the path. So it's and you're right. That room is full of so much energy. I can tell you for myself, I look forward to it every single year. It gets me re-energized, revitalized. I am pumped up, ready to go take on the world. So thank you for creating a space where we can connect and where we can just be in that room and have all those great experiences and learn from one another and the incredible presenters. I mean, every time you've got somebody on stage, there's this incredible data sharing. There's stories. It's amazing. It's a really great packed day. Now, I've had the pleasure of a previous discussion with you, and you shared a story with me about your very first mentor that was so powerful. And I know that the audience would love to hear it.
Sure. Well, and sometimes you don't know someone's mentoring you. And that was the basis of the story that I was telling. So for anybody who may be resistant to, maybe it's a new boss or somebody that you didn't expect to start giving you feedback, I hope you listen to my story. So I was in my very first job here in Washington, D.C. many years ago. It was not in the mortgage industry. I was working for the Association of Trial Lawyers. And I was fresh out of college, and my boss at the time was in charge. He was the director of administration, and he was in charge of the things that not only would run the association, but would bring revenue into the association. And so one of those responsibilities is they did 2 big conferences a year. And so he was the one who was teaching me how to make money by running conferences. And what you had to do, what you needed to know in order to work with hotels and vendors, et cetera. He taught me how to negotiate. So we had a very close working relationship. It was he and I for a long time. And then there was some funding, and he decided to get a manager to take some of the burden of the convention, part of it that he used to do, off of his shoulders, which meant I now had a layer in between my boss and the job I was doing. And in my 21-year-old self, was like, well, why do I need a new manager? So this woman comes in and she is dynamic and has all of this experience, and she's 12 years older than I am. So clearly she's more worldly. I had come from my farm in New Jersey and now I'm in Washington, D.C. And, I was still learning how to be a grown up and how to be in the professional world. And so I gave her kind of a hard time. I'm not proud of it. It was, you don't know what you don't know. And all I thought was, why is he putting a layer in between us? And I know this association, she doesn't, et cetera. So I would say I wasn't my best self, but she showed up every day creating opportunities for me, never to this day, we're still friends, never would say, you're not listening or you're being disrespectful, and hopefully I wasn't being disrespectful, but I was being, again, not my best self. And she would sing my praises when we would be in rooms of other people, of our members. And all of a sudden I realized having her as a layer she wasn't the enemy. Mm-hmm. She was actually somebody who was going to really help propel me and propel my career and teach me things I didn't know. And so she didn't show up and say, I'm your mentor, but she became my mentor because of the way she managed me. And to this day, I manage my teams the way she managed me, which is give them opportunities, empower them. If they're a little off direction, help them course correct and not make them feel badly, right? She never made me feel badly. And she would, even when I would need coaching, if I handled something not the right way, she would always give me feedback in a way that I could hear it and accept it. And so my first mentor, I didn't even know was a mentor, because back then, this is, back in the 80s, where some of your listeners probably weren't even born yet, where you didn't talk about mentors, right? At least in the worlds I was in, we didn't talk about them. And she really, to this day, we're still friends. And she just has been the greatest example of how to lead and coach and mentor that I could have asked for at such a young age.
Mm-hmm. And how long did you end up working with her?
Well, it's an interesting story. So the other piece of the story is, so we worked together for 2 years. Okay. And the director, the guy that I was working for, he was terminated during the time that we worked together. And she stepped in mm-hmm. and, was doing his job, her job, and I stepped up to help when where I could. And she did that job, the director job, for over 6 months. And she wrote a letter to the executive director of the association and basically said, I've been doing the job and now I'm advocating for the same pay and mm-hmm. the title. And she was fired.
Oh my.
She was fired for stepping up and stepping in she knew what her worth was. And she came out of the meeting and I was like, how did it go? And she goes, I'm packing my things. They've fired me. They think I've overstepped, that I shouldn't be this direct. I shouldn't. And our executive director at the time was a woman. So mm-hmm. factor that in as well. That was shocking to me. But I realized that, and it was 2 months before one of our big conferences. Mm-hmm. How can you get rid of the head of who runs conferences? And then I realized because they're going to ask me to step in and step up, like they had asked her. Mm-hmm. But she didn't get the pay and she didn't get the title. Mm-hmm. And I went in the next morning because the executive director asked to meet with me, told me that Donna had been released from her duties and said that they were really looking forward to me stepping up, and and I gave her my resignation. And I left that day. And I'll never forget, I got in my car, and this is before cell phones and whatever else, and I'm like, I know what I did is the right thing, but now how am I going to pay rent? But I will never be sorry for doing the right thing and taking the right stand, and in a way protecting myself, because they would have taken advantage of me. And because of that, my sister, who was already in DC, was working for a place called the Mortgage Corporation. And she said, our person who does all of our events just got promoted and is now in public affairs. Come in and interview. And I came in, I got the job, and the Mortgage Corporation was rebranded 6 months later as Freddie Mac. And that's how I got into the industry, and I spent 21 years there. And so, sometimes really, really good things come out of situations that, I took a leap of faith, I guess. And to this day, when I talk to Donna, she's like, I still can't believe you did that. And I'm like, well, I was young. I didn't really think it through, but I'm glad it worked out.
Yeah, well, sometimes I think that we overthink situations, right? So you could have convinced yourself that it was going to be a different trajectory. They were going to elevate you to assume her role and do the work, and that, they were going to see the error of their ways and give you more money. But the fact of the matter is, there are so many stories, and I'm sure you've heard many of them, where women have been faced with situations just like that, and it was all the same. So good for you for taking your power back and making sure that you made a decision that had such a positive impact on your trajectory in your career. I mean, to have assumed a role that for Freddie Mac, what ultimately became Freddie Mac, but for Freddie Mac, I mean, just that opportunity, the fact that you took what you had learned and how you had grown professionally already and moved it into a new space that would strengthen and stretch your capabilities and lead you to all these beautiful chapters that you've had in your career.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know it at the time. I can say it now. Stepping out of your comfort zone can really pay off, because, if they hadn't let Donna go, I don't know how long. I could have been at that association for a long time, and then the opportunity at Freddie Mac wouldn't have presented itself. And I was able to reinvent myself 4 times at Freddie Mac. And it really was an amazing experience for me. And just a little shout out, my daughter's been at Freddie Mac now for 14 years. And so it's been a family affair. My sister was there for 42 years before she retired. So we're all in the industry, and it really worked out well.
That is incredible. And you're right. It's a family affair for sure. So now you reinvented yourself 4 different times at Freddie Mac. Mm-hmm. Stepped into the MBA and what you've built with mPower, which we're excited to also share that it's the 10th anniversary of mPower.
It is.
How exciting for this year's event.
Yes, a decade old, or a decade new, however you want to look at it. But, Stacey, I say this all the time from the stage. I may have had a thought and I may have been a spark, but it's the women in this industry who's made mPower what it is. Mm-hmm. It was perhaps the right idea at the right time. I didn't know how much need there was out there until I started traveling. The first year of mPower, I traveled the country speaking as much as I could to educate organizations on the power and influence of women. Mm-hmm. And the importance of women as a demographic, whether it is, a loan officer, women make most of the decisions when it comes to home purchase, right? They make most of the, we do 90% of a lot of decisions that are made financially in households. And so I would just go and try to get organizations to understand what an asset the women in their organizations are. Diversity of thought, as you're well aware, right? And diversity of experience. And so we moved from that on to just, now what do women need for personal development? How do we get rid of the imposter syndrome? How do we deal with difficult conversations? What's holding us back? And so and women just kept showing up and bringing up and starting relationships and doing business together. And it's been an amazing 10 years.
I'm a big believer if you want to start a movement, you get women involved. Because we figure we run our homes, we run our lives, we run a lot of other people's lives because our family will be like, can you do this? Can you do this? Can you take this? But when you really want to start a movement, you get women involved because we figure out how to do things, but we also figure out how to pull other people in to be part of it. So it just grows and it becomes an entity all on its own. And my experience with mPower has been that room is filled with women and allies who see the value of what women can bring to the mortgage industry, but so many women use what they're experiencing, what they're learning, what they're feeling in mPower, and I am sure 100% certain that it transcends to other areas of their lives. And what a gift that is to have that power and that support.
Yes.
So, as you're starting this next beautiful chapter of your life, what advice would you give the rest of us about where to go from here when it comes to mentoring and stepping into mentoring, or even being a mentee, being a good mentee?
Yes. So, my news.
Yes.
That I have decided to retire completely from work at the end of the year. And I knew that this day was coming. I was planning ahead for this day. And so as it relates to mentoring, I've been fortunate where a lot of my direct reports have been with me and in MBA for as long as I've been here, and I've been here 14 years. And so I use this opportunity of being ahead of when I would let people know that I would be exiting stage left, to make sure they were mentored, to make sure I was giving them stretch assignments to get them more visibility. And I am proud to say that I'm lifting up many in my departure. And so I will be active and involved and engaged until December 31st, and then I will be living the retired life. And I am bringing up Koller Hopkins, who is being promoted to a senior vice president, and she is going to take over mPower. And many people know Laura. She does mPower events at regional events and things, but she's been with MBA for a long time. And she'll take over the meetings and conventions part of my portfolio and continue with her membership part of her portfolio. And the two go together so well. And so I am thrilled that Laura is going to not only be stepping in as I step out, but she is so well prepared and so excited for it. And that makes me very, very happy. And, I'm not going anywhere. I'm sure you'll see me at whatever mPower events they'd like me to come and hang out with them at.
That's fantastic. And you are 100% right. Laura is the perfect person to step into that role, that part of your role, and to take that on. Her intimate involvement with mPower, and she is someone that you just naturally feel drawn to, and I feel like she's going to carry on the legacy that you've built with mPower and do it with great enthusiasm and a whole lot of care, because she just is that person.
Well, and part of it is and you know the story because you've been at all the events, but as you know, my husband was diagnosed with cancer 3 years ago, and his diagnosis came literally days before I had to take the mPower stage. And I knew I had to tell the community because I'm sure they could see it in the way I delivered my speech and the weight that I was carrying. And that was in October. And he was in his first round of treatment. And I had a conversation with Laura, not knowing what the future would hold. And I said, if I have to step away quickly and before I was expecting that I would be stepping away, would you be willing to step into mPower? And so we were working now. I'm happy to say, as you know, my husband's in remission, and
Yes.
he's not the reason I am retiring. Well, he's part of the reason, right? Because he's healthy enough to travel and do other things, but it's not why I'm making my exit. But a few years ago, when he wasn't in remission, it was touch and go for a while whether I should stay working or not. But Laura and I have been working for 3 years knowing that she would be taking on this responsibility. And giving her another part of my portfolio was a surprise to her when I made my news public within MBA. But the other thing is, two of my other direct reports are also getting promoted. So I was able to have a portfolio and have a team that has been mentored and ready, that when I presented it to Bob, he really liked the plan and we're moving ahead with it. And so I can't say enough about mentoring and giving direct reports the opportunity, giving people in your departments the opportunity. And feedback doesn't always have to be with a mentor. It doesn't always have to be great feedback. A lot of times it's feedback that you need to hear and adjust accordingly. So I think what you're doing in this series is great. I commend you for it. I thank you for everything you do in the industry, not only for mentoring and how good you are at not only explaining it, but teaching people how to be good mentors, but for women. You are always there showing up for women. And so I appreciate that.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, I can't thank you enough for your lifetime of work supporting women in the mortgage industry, and for the MBA for their support and sponsorship. Capital W Collective has really enjoyed the opportunity to collaborate with the MBA and be a resource in the education piece and in that space. And I certainly expect that we'll be seeing more of MBA and CapW Collective collaborations. But for you, ma'am, I can't thank you enough for being that incredible beacon to inspire the women who not only attend mPower, but who have the privilege of being in the room with you at any time, hearing you speak about what it is that our capabilities are and the belief that we need to have in ourselves and each other. You are an inspiration to all of us, and we thank you so much for that and for being here to share today.
Oh, well, thank you, Stacey. Again, I appreciate being invited and all of your support.
All right, my friends. Well, you heard from the GOAT herself. Yes, the greatest of all time. I'm going to say it. Marcia Davies, thank you all for being here today. We hope to see you at a future The Power of Mentoring series with Capital W Collective. Take good care.